Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Okay, good to see everyone. Happy to be with y'all again on another Sunday for sewing. Go ahead and get started with the usual, just some check-ins. Maria, do you mind doing the honors?
Yeah, well, as you know, I've finished the face.
Yes.
So the face is all done, and I'm on to the little squares. I'm writing out the diagram. I'll be drawing out the diagram, ready to cut out the little squares. So I'm going to have fun today trying to get these markings correct. That'll be me today.
Great.
I've got a feeling that's the easiest bit of these squares.
Well, yeah, you might be right there. You might be right. I think, did you decide which of the approaches I think last time we met 2 weeks ago, I described the 2 different approaches of basting while it's separate from the face and then pinning the basted piece, or basting the pinned piece. Did you decide which of those 2 you're going to do?
I think basting it first.
Okay.
Would kind of, because then you're not trying to fiddle with it while you're putting it on, maybe, unless you think the other ones.
I think it's I'm exploring how I want to teach it. I think both are, to my mind and to my dexterity, they both have pros and cons. So I'll be excited to hear what you think of it.
Right, I shall keep you posted. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Hilary, how about you?
Okay, right. I've been playing catch up, and I've got as far as like the double sewing on 3A and 4A and 1A, and the other 2 are pinned ready. 2 and 5 are pinned ready, because I wanted to try and do the thing that you showed us in class 40 of putting the panels together. Honestly, John, there's something about my brain. I can't do things when people reverse things round. So I couldn't work out. So later, when everyone's checked in, perhaps you will show me how 3A and 4A go together, because, you know, when I've done it, I'm not sure which side drops down, and then I notice you've swapped them around, and I'm really confused. So I'm stuck on that now. Thank you.
And you want to wait until we've gone through other check-ins?
Well, I don't mind. If they don't mind, they'll probably want to get on with things. So I thought maybe I'll wait until everyone's checked in.
I think that there's a lot of people in your cohort that may be experiencing similar things. So I think, yeah, let's go through with check-ins, and then we can really focus in on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Hilary. Sue, how about you?
Hi, I'm similar to you, Hilary, in that I've got all my pieces sewn, but I'm hoping for some guidance on how to put them together. So yeah, I'll be on that one. So keen to get on with it. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sue. Rosemarie, how about you?
Yeah, so I just finished the middle line on the frame, and I'm very happy to say I did some knotless knots, so that's feels really good. I think I have a few more to do, and that's where I'm at. So I have to do the outside border sewing, and that's where I'm at today. So I'll do some practice stitching to get back into it. Thanks.
Lynn, how about you?
Hi, lovely to see everybody. Feels like a while since I've been, so I'm just at the end of an envelope. So I'm doing that tricky little bit that you do where you stitch it, the last stitching, which is what I'll finish today. And it's nice to see everyone.
And you're feeling confident?
Not sure about that, but I'll see how it goes. I've learnt with this process, you can always undo it.
That's true. Thank you, Lynn. It's good to see you again. And Shelley, how about you?
I have 3A and 4A attached, and I'm attempting to pin 5A to 4A. And I've been working on it for the last hour, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out which one is supposed to be inside the seam allowance and which is supposed to be on the seam allowance.
Okay.
I have a lot of trouble with spatial things.
Well, it sounds like, so what I think I'll do then, Shelley, with you, Hilary, and Sue, all kind of in a similar point, there will be a point where I will point out kind of which piece would be which for you, Shelley. They won't look exactly the same because the 5, of course, is narrower than the 3 or the 4, but hopefully that would clarify that order. And if it doesn't, just say, John, that still doesn't make any sense. So just let me know.
If you could just say which one is on the top, like,
yeah,
that would be helpful.
So yeah, actually, that's a great segue. So let me get started sharing my desktop as a kind of, I'm going to start from the top for just to try to ease. I know Sue and Hilary are trying to attach different pieces than perhaps Shelley is. So I'm just going to start all the way from the top. Let me switch my camera to ultra wide. Okay, so so I want to just briefly, let me use a different one. So this is, let me actually turn it so it's properly. Okay, so this is the 3-piece here in the center, and this is 1 and this is 5, just so to clarify what the orientation should look like, or what pieces we're working on. So when you're talking about which pieces are on top of which, 3 is the topmost piece with 3A on top of 3B. Both of those are on top of both 2A and 4A, which are on top of 2B and 4B here. So 3 is on top of both 2 and 4, and then 2 and 4 likewise are on top of both 1 and 5. So it's almost as though this is a mountain that peaks at the center and slopes downward in both directions. So Shelley, since you have successfully attached 3 and 4, I'll just let me demonstrate what. So this is 4, and let us pretend for today that this is 5, even though it is too wide, briefly. And Hilary and Sue, I will demonstrate for 3 in just a moment. So if you feel like it'll make you cross-eyed to watch this part, then don't watch this part. So Shelley, if this is 4 and the 4 pieces on top of the B piece. If you remember earlier on, I described how the second line of the top piece always goes to the first line of the B piece. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to do my pinch and lift so that my 4 remains on top. And then I'm going to slide my 4 towards that first line of the bottom of the 5 piece. And so here, this second line of 4 is lining up with the first line of 5. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Have you been able to follow along?
So far,
Okay, great.
if you show Sue and Hilary, I think I can go from here.
Okay, great. Thank you for confirming, Shelley. Okay. So I keep forgetting to reorder. I shipped my chalk pencil to one of our sewists in another country, and so I keep forgetting to buy a new chalk pencil. So this piece is 3A. I was able to remove the marking with an eraser just so it doesn't confuse you because it said something else. So this piece is 3A up here. This is 3B down here. This is 4A, and this is 4B. So Hilary and Sue, as I was describing earlier, the 3A piece is going to end up on top of the 4, or the 3 piece is going to end up on top of the 4 piece. As you can see here, it is the top piece, and it is the topmost piece is the 3 piece. And just like with your with when you were doing these stitches, just like with these, the very first thing you did was take the second line of the top piece A and align it with the first line of the bottom piece B. And so we're going to do the exact same thing here, where the second line of this top piece 3 is going to go to the first line of this bottom piece 4. So to demonstrate that, and I'm gonna do my best not to do reversal. Hilary, what I'm going to do is this 3A piece is going to remain in this orientation the entire time. I won't flip it, I won't turn it. So I'm going to pinch. I've got the wrong sides back to back, and the right side's going to be on the outside. I lift, and I will turn it so that 3A is in the same orientation it just was. So this step gets your orientation correct. Where this is that first line of the bottom piece. And I want to align this second line of the top piece with that first line of the bottom piece. And I will do that simply by pulling it, demonstrate. Normally you would not split them like that. I'm just pulling it along until this second line of 3 is aligned with the first line of 4. Let me tidy it up. Once you're pinning, the first pins you're going to insert are going to be these here on these lines, and you're going to do your best to do line to line, and then certainly make them parallel to each other. They should match pretty closely though, if you've been relatively consistent in the way you've been doing each of your panels. Were you, how were y'all able to follow that? I can do it again, just any questions?
I have followed that so far, John.
Okay.
Will we be sewing down the long line of this 3A and 4A?
That's right. So this second piece, or this second line of 4, this is where your first visible stitch
the second
So-
line of 4? Do you mean the second line of 3?
3, yes, thank you, I'm sorry. The second
Right.
line of 3, which is the top piece, will
Right.
be the line which you will sew first. Would you like to see which line that corresponds to on the finished Rakasu?
Yes.
So that will be, of course, this line here will correspond to this line here. Oh, this blue on blue is not terribly helpful, is it?
Can I just check, when you put your pin through on the cross piece of 3A, should you be coming out a bit into the like longitudinal seam allowance on 4A,
Yes.
the
Yes, that
lengthwise
is-
one?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying, oops, I did it the exact opposite. Yes, it should come when you go directly through the crosshairs on 3. It should come out in this. I believe this is what you're describing as longitudinal.
Yes.
Yes. So this is the 4 piece here on the back. And that is the 3 piece here on the front. Does that align with your understanding?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. I see Sue's gone off camera, but Sue, you're invited to, if you have questions, by all means.
Sorry, I didn't realise I'd gone off camera. Yes, I think that's fairly clear.
Okay.
Until I start doing it. No, I think I'm okay with that.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, let me know. Yeah, if you know, I'll be here for the next hour and a half if you have questions.
So the second line of 3 goes to the first line of either 4 or 2, whichever
Yes.
one you're doing. Yeah.
That's right.
John,
Yes.
I have a trick that I started using based on what you just did that helps me. Can I share?
Yes, please do.
So on the piece that's on the top, so for Hilary and Sue, that would be 3A. The line that you're pinning, I just pin vertical so that I can see where it shows up on the bottom piece. So for you, that'd be the 4A piece. So I can see if I'm exactly lined up or if I'm just inside the seam allowance. And
So you're
then
talking,
I do that, and then I pin the sides because then I can tell where I am.
so you're talking about pinning more like this to check where you're falling within that seam allowance?
Yeah, and I do it in the middle, not on the edges, and then I come back and
Mhm.
do the verticals on the edges
Mm.
because then I can
So-
see right where I am.
Yes, I can see how that would be helpful. That seems like that could be a useful tool. Thank you, Shelley. Yeah.
Thank you. I have to get creative to understand the space.
Yes. There's a lot of, even with good spatial reasoning, there's still a lot of trust in this, but yeah, you got to be able to visualize it to some degree.
If you've got a slight difference in the length of these pieces, and you're
Mhm.
trying, like you said in the video, to get rid of it in the seam allowance, I'm going to have to pin crosshair center to crosshair center on one end. Just because one piece is like 1 millimeter longer, 1 and a bit millimeters longer than the other, I think.
If it's just one, so are you talking about longer? You're talking about longer in this
I'm
dimension?
talking about my longitude again, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think in that case, I think with just 1 millimeter difference, I actually think that it's not critical to try to split the difference in that case. What I would do, if I knew, I'll use a square number, 2, just for clarity of my own mind. So let's say that, which of your 2 pieces is longer? Is it your 3 or your 4 piece is longer?
It's my 3 piece. It's a little bit longer at one side. I don't think it's quite right angled. It feels like one side's a little bit longer than the other. So no, it's my 3A that's longer.
Okay.
That's slightly longer.
So then what I would do, I'm gonna try to mimic a little more than, so that that's probably it's close to a millimeter, but less than a millimeter that I'm there in that seam allowance. So let me switch to a higher resolution camera. Better. Oh, where's Zoom? Okay. So I'm just barely now, if you're 3 pieces longer than your 4 piece, you would end up slightly in the seam allowance longitudinally on both top and bottom, and as though you were trying to center the 4 piece on the 3 piece. So if you had a center line drawn between the 2, that it would line up perfectly, which we're not going to draw, but that would be what I would try to do. I do think, as you stated, with a 1 or just over 1 millimeter difference between the 2, I do think that your approach of doing one crosshair, doing one where you're lining up these horizontal seam allowances, the latitude seam allowances, if you lined those up on one side and didn't line them up on the other, then I think that would be okay as well. Whichever makes most sense to your brain, and more importantly, what you're going to be able to do consistently between these different pieces.
Right. So John, if we're putting pins in down the lengthwise, but we're going to be sewing lengthwise, don't we need some horizontal pins?
Yes, I think my approach is just horizontal pins. Shelley, when you were talking about lengthwise pins, were you talking about, was that just a reference pin that you would later remove? Is that what you were explaining to the group?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, so
I take
back
out
here.
both the pins I put along first, once I make sure I've got the line sorted.
So you're using these vertical pins just to check the alignment of but you're not going to be using them for sewing.
No, once I get the edges pinned, then I take those ones out.
That makes sense. Does that clarify your question, Hilary?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I've got my pinning. Can you see that?
Yes.
Right. So do I now go and sew along the line that has this pins through the crosshair on?
That's right. Is that 3A that we're looking at?
Yeah, that's 3A.
Yeah, and that's the second line of 3A, and you're attaching the four to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
correct. So that's the sew. For the line.
So I go ahead and sew. Which is going to be the front? Is it going to be 3A or 3B on the stitches?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sorry, I got it wrong. So I'm sewing the Namiki Butsu stitch on 3A, and on 4A, it'll look like just a long line as usual. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you're going to end up with is just the first half of creating one of these. It's going to be just like this, where that 4A is never going to be visible because it will be here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once I get myself confused, it takes me a long time to get unconfused. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you're at the stitching part now, so you can let all that wash away.
Thank you.
John, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering how symmetrical this this envelope is supposed to be.
Sure.
I think what I've done kind of makes, if you sit it without taking the flap right the way down to the bottom, it makes what feels to be like a square. And then when you move, I can show you. So it makes it kind of a square like that. Mm-hmm. And then I presume that what you do is take the flap down to the bottom.
That's right. Yeah, it may reach all the way to the bottom. It may not. So in that, it's symmetrical left, right. It is not symmetrical top to bottom.
Well, and I'm just wondering whether or not it's supposed to actually be a smooth side going down, is it? Yeah.
It looks right to me. I don't think I'm understanding your question or your concern. I will say that that looks like a Rakasu envelope to me, a correctly constructed one. Yes.
Oh, good.
It looks good to me. Yeah. Let me show you mine. I'll hold mine up and you can see it has more signs of travel wear, but it is similar. Mine has kind of learned, you had folded it down, I think, a little further because of the size of my straps. Mine has learned to sit a little higher, but it's all acceptable.
Can you show me the inside of it, John? I'm quite interested in this bit where the lining folds in. I don't know how neat mine is.
Turn it inside out, you mean?
Yes, please. Is that it's the tricky bit is where it sort of joins in the middle, isn't it? And to get it tidy.
It is. I still have actually a visible stitch on the front related to this. It is a very tricky section.
It's rather personal asking you to turn it inside out.
That's okay. I did this a long time ago, and it's exactly where I was at the moment. So let me actually, hold on, I've got a better camera. I turned on because I had nothing to show you.
Yeah.
And that's how it ended up. And then I have just a little bit, something got a little womper jawed right in here. I was under the wire at the moment. I was really feeling the pressure of the Jukai timing bearing down on me, and it's reflected in the quality of my work here.
Yeah, it's how it is in the moment, isn't it?
It is.
I haven't folded that bit under yet, so I'm just kind of trying to see how mine on this one is still kind of looking. It's not been folded over, but it's that how do you make it really neat? I mean, my inclination normally is to kind of, you know, trim it and stuff, but it doesn't even suggest any of that, does it?
It doesn't suggest any of that, no. The length of that seam allowance, I think that one's one of the 1.5 centimeter seam allowances, if I remember correctly. It doesn't show greatly. The difficulty, and I've turned it right side out to demonstrate, I do have a visible stitch here as part of that last little assembly. I would say if you want to draw a line in with chalk to help you stay straight, that's where my issue came, was that at the very end I did not stay on a straight line. I think that would probably be the most helpful bit of guidance.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I shall see what happens.
Okay. Report back. I'm excited to hear.
Thank you.
John, can I ask you another question, please?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, right. I feel like I'm in the foothills listening to you, Lynne, and I'm thinking, if I'm struggling with this, I can feel my stuff. Anyway, what I want to know is the direction of the Name Kibutsu stitch. So do you start at the top end of the 3A so that it runs that way, or do you start, because I had it the other way up, so my stitches were going the other way. Which way should the stitches be running?
The way that I think, so please be consistent with the way you sewed these. So when you were attaching, that's me, I'm sucking my teeth at my own inability to communicate. So this, when you sewed, let me get 3A, because that's the piece you're sewing on. So this is 3A, or let's imagine it is. When you sewed this, were you holding it like this, where you had that seam allowance of the A piece at the top? Was that how you were holding it when you sewed this line?
No, I was holding it with 3A facing towards me.
So you could see 3A, you could read
3A
3A.
is kind of nearer to me than the other end, yeah.
I would replicate what you did there. I would, so to compare, if you were to take your 3A piece, the direction should match the same, which I think you're right-handed, is that correct?
Yes.
I think, so this stitch is actually reversible. If I sew it this way, or if I sew it this way, I'm coming up on the left and going down on the right. So it's always going this direction. It's always coming the way you see here, regardless of the direction. And you can test this yourself by rotating. You can see that it's reversible 180 degrees. So I guess I've actually been overcomplicating the answer and should say it does not matter.
It doesn't matter. I've just
matter.
wait.
Yeah.
Just realised. Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you for
John.
asking.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for yours.
John?
Yes.
Hi, quick question. The outer line of stitching on the frame, that goes all the way through, right?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Oh, Maria, how do you do this? Maria normally is the one that does all of my spotlighting for me. So whenever y'all see someone else's face or pop up next to my video, that's always Maria's work. And I'm trying to get better at doing it myself. And I feel she's so fast. She's so practiced at it. I'm feeling not practiced.
Can I just ask you a question, John?
Yeah, please.
I'll have my spotlight.
Thank you.
And what was I saying? Yeah, so I've done drawn the little squares out.
Yeah.
What helped first is I did it on a paper, did the diagram on a piece of paper, and then I did my markings on the material from the paper, not from a ruler.
Really?
And that was so much easier because what I did is I just lined up, hang on if I can, I just lined up the square to the points and did little ticks where on each side where I need to do the lines.
And then you were able to, just to engineer brain in me, were you then able to take your ruler out and check? Were you able to then confirm and everything lined up?
Perfect. Right? Yeah, so it was so much easier because the material moves, doesn't it? It's very movie. So it was much easier to do it on the paper first. But I'm just checking, you know, them dotted lines.
Yes.
Dotted lines, that's where I cut now, isn't it?
That's right. Yes.
I didn't want to do it. Checking.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Now that the UK, I believe, has their own, their own bolt of this material, I'm a little less nervous, but I've always been very like, yes, thank you for checking. Thank you for checking. Don't have to ship it across the pond.
Oh, thank you. I shall cut confidently now.
Yeah. Well, and do you think that you'll be attempting your folding and pinning or basting today?
What time are we on? Possibly, yeah. I mean, do you iron it first? Do you iron the little corners down first, the little edges?
Yeah, and it varies slightly if you're going to do the pocket fold that Lynne suggested, if you want to do it this way, or if you want to do it the way that's shown in the actual guide. And I don't know if I have an example of that, but it's the kind of semi-fold. Do you know which of those two methods that you're going to do? Are you going to do this one or the one with the little fractions of a fold?
What do you mean?
I have only a drawing for reference. So either this one where you fold the corner in and then you fold both sides down onto that corner, or if you fold one side down, the other side on top of it, and then the corner that makes you fold in, so you end up with sort of this little dog ear.
I'll just play with it. When I've cut them, I'll have a little look at folding in both ways.
You'll notice that with the how small the fabric is, this the skew that the folds introduce is a lot more pronounced because of the size. So do what feels comfortable to you and what makes the most sense. The reason that I asked was the order of operations on when you're ironing versus folding changes depending on which of these methods that you do. That's why I was asking. But it's
I'll play just kind of doing it gently both ways and seeing which way sort of makes more sense to me.
Okay.
Or works for me.
The one thing I would suggest is when you're playing with this method, you have to do both of the corners on the edge that you're going to fold over first.
All right.
Because you can't go back and redo this bit if you're trying to do this bit. If that makes any sense.
First way is kind of the way we always kind of fold things, isn't it? The two corners and then over. It's kind of
Yes,
like,
that is
yeah, it's like a traditional.
Western sewing tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, the other way sounds a bit more bulky, but I don't know if it is.
I don't experience it to be bulky. That's what you see here. And it doesn't, it's hard to say. There is a little bit of additional contour there, but it is hard to say if that could have, to what extent that could have been prevented, or to what extent that's aesthetically pleasing. I don't know. I've never scrutinized others' work.
Yeah. Oh, I shall see. We shall see.
Do what is comfortable for you.
Well, thank you for mentioning the two types of folding because I hadn't thought of that. So, yeah.
Let me know if you have any. Let me know if you have any questions about that would help you choose, or just getting to that.
Great, thank you.
It's an hour after the start of class, so if anyone wants to talk about anything that isn't strictly a question, we're welcome to do so.
Well, I think the folding down is easier than gosh, they're fiddly, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And
They
then
really
pinning
are.
them, how to get a flat square when you're pinning?
You don't. I think until the pins, just the scale of these squares compared to the size of a pin, they're bound to distort it. So you're not going to get a flat one. I think it's when you're at the basting phase, whatever basting order you're choosing to do, that's when you're trying to get the flatness and work out. And even then, it's very challenging.
Well, it is looking like a little square, like that's what I was worried about, that I'd never be able to. So it's looking like a little pinned little square. I've probably pinned it completely wrong, but it's like it's pinned.
Is it? Will you flip it again? Will you flip it over?
Oh yeah. So it's kind of.
You see how you still need a little bit more on that. So on the
There's a bit off, isn't it, on this side here?
yeah, that blue pin edge. Yeah, that one looks like a candidate for this little kind of half fold in.
Yeah.
And when doing this style of fold, the way they did it, and the only way that's worked for me is to pin it like so. So you're actually that little tiny kind of half fold that you've done here, you're actually pinning directly into that, coming in at the same 45 degree as that.
Yeah, and it gives you more basting room, doesn't it, as well?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, right, I'll do that. That makes far more sense than what I've just done.
Well, if this ends up too fiddly, though, that's this option may feel like it feels less fiddly to you to do it this way.
Yeah.
I do think it's easier to pin. You can see here that's basically how it's pinned when you do it this way. This is easier to pin, I think, than this method.
It makes more sense, doesn't it? Overall. I'll give it a go.
We're back.
Thank you. Oh, we've got a storm brewing here. Oh, goodness me, thunder and lightning.
You're welcome, Travis, to send it this way. We've been in need of a good rain for some time now.
Shelley?
I'm just wondering if you could say a little bit about the ironing for when you fold that piece under on the top piece and where it needs to line up on the bottom piece.
Sure, yeah. So I'll preface this by saying it's roughly the same as when you were doing the A and the B versus 3, 4, or 4, 5. You're doing 4, 5, so let me do that. And so you've just sewn this here, right? The second line of
Yes,
the 4-piece. Okay.
yes.
So what you will roughly end up with, so what you're going to be trying to achieve, and you actually, your paper, if you have your paper models handy, they may be good reference too. So when you press this, you'll press from behind first. So you'll press, let me actually describe the steps. So you've got your second line of your top piece sewn to your first line of your bottom piece, or just outside that seam allowance. And that's when you're going to kind of open the book, so to speak. You're going to fold here, and using the paper guides, let me do it better.
It seems to me, John, you said something about folding the chalk line on the top piece just under so it matches the chalk line on the bottom piece. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yes. So this piece here,
Yeah.
You'll fold it so that if you're looking at it from directly above and you're holding the fabric straight up and down on that fold, you can see the chalk line head on. So you're trying to, almost like you're centering that on the peak of the mountain. So that first you'll fold that down. And yes, you can press that separately as its own step. So press just this fold. Then, and I'm going to use the AB piece to demonstrate, but you're going to open and press from behind. You're going to press, so you've got a top piece, second line of top piece, and you've got a bottom piece, first line of bottom piece. So you'll open and you'll press that from behind. If you've been, you'll want to keep an eye though, that you don't press this too flat, such that even with this folded, this is a perfect example. I'm glad this worked out. So you can see that second line of the bottom piece is still visible.
Yeah.
Ideally, you want to press them so that they're perfectly aligned.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for asking.
Right, John. There you go. Pinned it the other way.
Looks good from this side. And the other side.
Doesn't it? It makes more sense all round, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not quite perfect pinning again, is it? There's still a bit.
Yeah, you'll probably still be able to see those exposed corners. That's what that kind of half fold is about, is getting those little, getting the part that sticks out on the front. You want to try to hide that if possible.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think
that
I should
is
try it the way?
This way, you mean?
Is that what? Yeah. Do you think I should give it a go that way? Maybe.
Yeah. Give it a try and see if it's more comfortable.
I'll give it a go. See if it makes it a bit more aesthetic.
Yes. I've seen people just very, cleverly, nip away at the parts that stick out on those corners. But that's, I think, not ideal. You don't want to risk damaging the finished garment when it's already attached or something.
Do you iron it sort of in that fold or not, or just do it with your fingers?
You'll definitely want to iron it at some phase. You can get pretty far with just your fingers, but I think even before you fully pin, you probably want to start pressing. And of course you never want to press over a pin because it can make the fabric shiny.
Yeah. Ooh, there we go. I'll persevere. Let's have a look at what you're doing.
So I'm going to try without an iron.
Yeah, because your fingers kind of iron it, don't they, a bit? They kind of creases it.
Yeah, just the moisture and pressure from your fingers can go a long way into convincing the fabric to take another shape. So on this, I wouldn't stop here. So I folded down both of these edges, and I've now folded down this edge. And because of how much material is being wound up in this fold on this side, you can see it's a little bit exposed here. And from the front, this bit is a little bit exposed.
Yeah.
So it's at this phase that I'm going to do just a half fold or quarter fold. I'm just easing back just a little bit. So this piece, I'm gonna undo it. This was that corner, folded down and then folded back, that little exposed bit. And this is the what you see in the photo in the instruction document. And when you pin, you're going to pin straight through this. I have a hard time getting the pin to both go down through it and out through it. So let's see if these fine pins can do it. Let me just stab my cuticle instead. Okay. Yeah. So that's roughly what you're trying to do with that method.
Ah, right. I had something completely different in my head. You know, it's a good job you showed me that. I had something completely different.
So this is something you can try too.
Yeah. Yeah, I shall. I'll give that a go. I'll give that look. Yeah, I'm going to give that one a go. That looks good.
Good.
John, can I just show you the outer stitch? I'm just not sure if it's too close to the edge. And I only did a few, but I don't know if you can see them. Where the pin is, can you see that?
Can you hold it up a bit higher and a little?
Where the safety pin is?
Yeah, I see them. You can actually get a little closer to the edge than that. Will you hold it so that the edge is straight on at the camera?
Yeah, I think it looks further away in the way I'm showing it to you than it actually is. Let me fold this and see if I can hold it straighter.
And then, yeah, over a little further. And Hilary, I see you. Yeah. Is this how tight is that fold? How creased is that?
See, that's the first one, so it's really thick there. You know, so what was your question? I'm sorry.
How creased is this edge?
It's not very. I didn't. Should I iron this?
Generally, you don't need to press, but if the fabric is at this phase, it may be helpful. Yeah.
That's that really thick corner, you know.
Oh yeah,
that's that first really thick corner.
I see. That clarifies things for me. Then your distance was probably actually good.
I think if I follow along here, when it gets to the not so thick part, I think I'll probably be okay.
Yeah. Knowing that it was that corner, that makes a lot of difference. I probably was about 4 threads of the blue fabric away from the fold. And I've got it on screen if you want to look. This is my thick corner, just dead on. And then once I get a little further away from that thick part, that's how far I was from the edge.
Right. Yeah, I'm plenty close, so I think I'll be okay.
Wonderful. Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Along the top edge, we've got the straps as well so far in, haven't we? So I kind of remembered that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll protect or it'll hide in.
Yeah.
Hilary, what about you?
So can I just clarify, John? I've sewn 3A and 4A together. It looks, I think that's going to look right. Oh, can you see it?
I messed up my
No.
view. Give me a moment.
So
Oh.
I've done that. Now, when I'm doing the rest on my own, so 4 goes over 5, and
Yes.
3 goes over 2, and then 2 goes over 1. Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Thanks.
Um,
Thank you.
3's on top, which is on top of 2 and 4 and 1 and 5, which is what you said, but in a different order.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for checking. I'm about to do an unreinforced knotless knot. If anyone wants a refresher, this one is this is me going back. This was my first stitch going in, and I'm about to finish it off. So I'm going back after I finished a knotless knot here to finish my line of stitches. I'm going back, and this is the starting stitch on a knotless knot. Because it's a starting stitch, I originally went down instead of coming up. So now I'm going to go down where I would have come up. And these stitches are very small, so I'm going to have a hard time, but I'm trying to feed my needle between all the layers of fabric and trying to follow my stitches as though they were a tunnel, and my needle is trying to stay within. It looks like that would probably work. The tension and friction of these stitches is going to hold the thread I'm about to hide in the fabric. It's going to hold it all in place. Boy, there is friction. I can really feel it. It's hard to pull everything through. So then I pulled it through. Slightly over tighten, just until about an extra millimeter reveals itself. Cut. And done. Go ahead and bow out then. It's good to have seen all of y'all. We will have class next week, bar any disasters or illness. Once to the altar and once to each other. So good to see you all. See you next
Hi,
week.
everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Stay cool.